Well, Malik Willis is now the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Hopefully, he's the next great Packers quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, he is. Hopefully.
This is Tom Grossi, and you're watching the PackReacts podcast.
Let's go.
Welcome to PackReacts, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Jeremy Hadler, and today we don't have our other host, Mike, because he's busy, but we got a guest on. That's John right here, folks. We like to bring him on, as we always do, like to have guests come on, and this is our second John on the PackReacts show. So welcome, John.
Good to be here, man.
Yes. And we'll be talking about tonight, folks, of the Packers-Eagles game from last week. Then we'll be recapping that game, talk about what went right, what went wrong in that game. And Jordan Love's sprained MCL, we will definitely talk about that. And then get into the Packers-Colts preview game. But first, before we start all that, I got to ask John here, since he's new on the show, some Packer questions. Because you always got to ask the Packer fans the questions here. Now, The first question we always ask Packer fans when they come on the show is, how did you become a Packers fan, sir?
My grandfather is a huge Packer fan, and every time I used to go over there, he always used to have this Packer stuff in his room when I was little, and I was trying to get into football, and it just he kind of brought me into it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I always used to see the games on at his house, and my whole family are Giant fans, so I didn't go down that route. But
that's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I'm a Packer fan.
Nice. And what would you say, besides the Super Bowl that we just won recently with Aaron Rodgers, what is like your favorite Packer moments?
I mean, Rodgers to Cobb on 4th and I think it was fourth and 8. Yeah, that's up there. It was Jared Cook toe tap against the Cowboys.
Yep,
definitely up there. And Mason Crosby drilled that kick too.
He did.
And just anything Jordy Nelson related to. I love Jordy Nelson.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, he was. My favorite thing with him is always that route he'd always do, especially on Rodgers' free plays. Every time he did against the Bears, he'd cook them easily every single time. Unstoppable route, but yeah. And then my last question for you, John, is have you gone to a Packers game before?
I have gone to a Packer game in MetLife.
Ooh.
Yes. I've never been to Lambeau. It's definitely on the bucket list, but I've seen the Packers in MetLife and Lincoln Financial. Okay. And the game I saw in Lincoln Financial was actually Jordan Love's debut, or not his debut. He just came in for Rodgers when Rodgers got hurt.
Okay.
But he played very well actually. He was like 8 for 8 or something.
He did play very well in that game. Yeah. He did. But yeah. All right, folks. Let's talk about this disaster in Brazil for the Packers. Is what the episode title is for today. Before I get right into that, you can also listen to us on Spotify too, folks. If you want to if you don't want to watch us live, you can always tune to Spotify, tune to our podcast here. But let's talk about this game here. The Green Bay Packers march into Brazil and Sao Paulo to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. They lose 34-29. John, what are your thoughts of this Packers game?
I don't think, obviously defense didn't show up, right? Didn't stop the run game. Mm-hmm. Jair Alexander, he did get the interception. I still don't think he played well.
Yeah,
a lot. I think he had a few penalties too.
Yeah,
just not a great game.
Yeah.
We did do a good job stopping Jalen Hurts to a degree. But I do think that offense was extremely promising.
Yes.
Jaden Reed looked phenomenal, obviously.
Yes, he did.
And nothing from Dontavian, Wicks, or not as much. I mean, he had 0 catches, but and he had a few drops. But Christian Watson had a touchdown, but didn't do much either. But
Yeah.
I mean, and also Josh Jacobs, not as much. Again, not as much as I thought he would do. He had 16 carries for 80 yards. So I mean, not a great debut, but I do think Jordan Love played well aside that really bad interception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, first thing for me was the field was terrible. It was
Horrible.
like it should never been played on there. First off, because it was like watching the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl. That game had like so slippery field. Like there were multiple times on both sides I remember seeing where you have a player slid, you had Christian Watson slid, you had AJ Brown slid, like multiple potential touchdowns you could have saw easily. And Jordan Love kept slipping so many times out there. It was just brutal from that. On the Packers offense, though, I mean, it was brutal, especially when you get three turnovers from that. You get 3 turnovers in the game. The first 2, you couldn't score any touchdowns, and that was ridiculous, especially when they're inside the red zone and you couldn't get anything. That really annoyed me. But Xavier McKinney did make his debut with that nice interception, but it was just brutal watching that offense because they had so much potential and they should have been way higher than scoring 6 points in the first quarter. It should have been 14-0 right off the bat there. Jordan Love, I did think he played an all right game. Obviously, that was a bad interception. He was slightly better than Jalen Hurts to me. Then on the rushing side, I was a bit of annoyed with not having them feed to Emmanuel Wilson a bit more when he was averaging 11.5 yards on 4 carries for 46 yards rushing yards. And then Josh Jacobs, he was a no-show in the first half, and then he started finally picking it up in the second half. So that was nice to see there. But that's got to get – I got to see a little better from the run game. Receiving core end, I mean, Jane Reed, amazing. Like, fantastic speed. I've said on this show before, folks, he could be a Tyreek Hill gadget player out here. He's got the speed, definitely. I mean, 4 receptions for 138 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, he has the most receiving yards as of right now in the NFL. He's leading the league in receiving yards, folks, right now. That's crazy, given what we went through the entire week 1. That's crazy. And then Romeo Doubs, I mean, I think he's getting more trusted because he had 7 targets, most out of any guy. He had 4 catches, 50 receiving yards. Tucker Kraft had a nice screen pass, 2 for 37. Jacobs did get involved in the passing game, but not as much as 2 catches for 20 yards. Christian Watson, he had a nice touchdown, and then he could have had another one. But he didn't, like, there wasn't much of him afterwards. Like, you got to see a bit more out of him. Mm-hmm. And then Luke Musgrave didn't show up. Dontavian Wicks should have caught 2 balls very easily, and he did not. There was multiple, like, the first one I remember could have been easily a first down. Dropped it right in front of him. He dropped that. But, yeah, I mean, that on offensively, they got to do a lot better in the red zone. I did like how it was formulating. And then the offensive line, it wasn't too bad, I would say, for like the pass game. The run game was a bit of annoyance. The pass game, it was pretty good with Zach Tom and Jenkins. They didn't allow any pressures at all from any of the defensive players from the Eagles. So I really liked that a lot. And then heading to defense, I thought they played fine up until the second quarter and like all the way up to the second and third quarter because there was good stuff from watching the game. Where obviously you're being aggressive, you had the turnovers right away, and you're containing Jalen Hurts for most of the game, which is what you want to do. And they held the Eagles rushing under 150 yards. Saquon only had 109 yards rushing, and Hurts had 33 rushing yards on 13 carries. But they could not contain the run game at all against Saquon because Saquon was very heavy in the pass game too, which I was not a fan of. And they couldn't really get after Hurts a lot of like sacking and putting pressure on because he had all day in the pocket. And they only got 2 sacks, which wasn't great. I would expect a little bit more, but obviously when you're against Jalen Hurts, he's going to escape. And yeah, like Hurts had 2 fumbles. He lost one of them. I mean, one of them was just from the bad snap from the center, though. But I think defensively, like there were some good moments in that game. Obviously, besides the turnovers, but there were some good moments. But Jair was terrible in that game. I mean, he did have that interception, but he got burned against AJ Brown. He needs to play a lot better. I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of more of a Williams, our rookie, because I didn't know why he didn't get any more snaps. And Cooper played well, I thought did too. He just needed to get more in the field and get more familiarized. Then I think it'll be fine. The safeties, I like them a lot. With Bullard, he literally went at it with AJ Brown. And I love that, our aggression for that. But I was a bit disappointed in the pass rush because again, they didn't get much pressure on Jalen Hurts, and they couldn't collapse the pocket and get after him. They just literally let it go and let him have all day in that pocket. He had all day.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. But yeah, we did have 2 interceptions. Our kicker, which I'll get into quickly, he was pretty good. Besides missing that 40-yarder, I believe it was. Missed that one. But besides that, he was fine. I think he'll be a lot better. He didn't miss any extra points. He was 3 for 4. I thought he did pretty well in his debut with the Packers as a rookie, and that's a lot better probably than what Carlson will give you.
Yes, definitely. That 40-yarder did piss me off a little bit, though, because that was huge in that situation. But, it's better than Carlson right now.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely better than Carlson. I absolutely agree with that. But, yeah, I mean, our kicker, now he'll get to go again, and I think he'll be fine. But, yeah, it was just brutal watching this because it was like watching – I'll give the example since I know my co-host Mike went to the Giants game and you also went to the Giants game last year. I compare it to that game a lot because Packers are right there. They have so much potential and they're about to get it and go win the game.
Yeah.
And then they keep shooting themselves in the foot. They keep having their gas on the pedal and the full on gas, and they got a bunch of flat tires all around.
Yep.
That is what I kept seeing out there because there's multiple opportunities and you have to take advantage of that, especially when you're in the NFL and you're going against the Philadelphia Eagles because the Eagles scored 34 points off of 3 even losing turning the ball 3 times. That cannot happen. You can't give up 34 points if they've turned over the ball 3 times. Can't happen. But yeah, that was my big annoyance was that just they had a lot of potential and they were right there to get the dub, but unfortunately they did not. But I did think they played fine compared to the other teams around the league because all these games in the NFL were sloppy this week, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was the reffing was a bit questionable because there were some questionable calls, especially the one where Christian Watson is in the end zone. There was no PI called on there. Then there was the holding on Jair, which didn't look like it. And then the end of the game was the one where Kenny Clark is apparently holding, even though he did nothing at all. And they gave the Eagles the first down to end the game. So there was a lot of annoyance. I mean, there was on both sides too, questionable calls. But there was really on both sides, the reffing was just terrible in general. Of how do you not recognize that? It's kind of obvious, but the refs are blind to me.
Everything was a disaster in Brazil. And if you look, there are other NFC North fans saying, "Oh, look, the Packers are last in the division." But all right, you played what the Bears played the Titans.
Yep.
The Vikings played a horrible Giants, and the Lions played the Rams, who didn't look good.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would just give it time, and I think we'll be all right if Jordan Love comes. Well, and I don't think Jordan Love should play next week.
Nope.
He should definitely give it a rest. Because you don't want him to risk just getting the win, and if he gets hurt and he's out for the rest of the year, then it's going to be a total disaster.
Yeah, definitely.
So you don't want that.
Exactly. You just want that as we head into our next segment here, guys, and we give a shout out to our one coach. It's not here tonight, but it's Mike saying "Go Pack Go." So go Pack Go, Mike. With Jordan Love, the second to last play of the game, he literally gets hit hard, and everyone looks like the worst of the worst. Me and John were watching the game together, and it just looked terrible. It looked like season's over, torn ACL, worst of the worst, and he somehow makes it out of there. And thank goodness, because that would have been a long season for us. Now it's the best news, the best case scenario we got out of that. We had initial testing it wasn't when we first got the news right after the game. It wasn't an ankle injury at all. It was up in the knee area, and we could definitely tell from that. Then, as soon as they land in Green Bay, they go to the doctors and they get the see what the diagnosis is, the updates. Because when they got the plane, Jordan Love looked fine. He looked fine getting off that plane, I saw. But yeah, it was just breathing, and every Packer fan just holding their breath to see what happens. And came the best news out of it because it was MCL sprain. It was between a grade 1 and grade 2 injury. That wasn't as bad as it was. And now it looks like he might come back earlier than he's supposed to. And Matt LaFleur has not ruled out of him being out for this week, even though I don't think it's gonna happen. You don't think it's gonna happen, and we don't think he should be playing at all.
No.
I'd rather just rest the guy because that's your franchise guy, and when you paid him at the time, the highest paid quarterback in the league, which is not Dak Prescott, but it's like you want to protect your guy because that's your guy for the next couple years, and you don't want to one little thing and the career's over. Like, you don't want to have an RG3 situation.
No, just for one game too.
Yeah. I'd rather just play it safe, have Malik Willis start, and just go from there. Malik Willis or Sean Clifford, but most likely it's going to be Malik Willis, my guess. And that's my case, is just play it safe. Now they play the Colts this week, which is going to be a tough matchup at home, which is nice for our advantage. Then they play the Titans the next week, which I think is an easier matchup. So I could see if Jordan Rui wants to play, he could play it, but I would kind of lean towards it. It really depends on how the Titans are doing this week, which I don't think they'll do well, especially when they gave up turnovers to the Chicago Bears, and especially when their head coach said if we punted every single time in the fourth quarter, we would have literally won the game.
Yeah.
So that's my case on that for the Titans. But I think Jordan, because it was being between like 3 to 6 weeks, then it's looking more like 3 to 4 weeks to me, what I'm looking at, and then it goes like, yeah, he might be at next week, guys. I'm just like, I don't want to happen here, but like, I'm not trying to get my hopes that high, Matt. Don't lie to me here.
Yeah.
But yeah, because my initial thought when I'm thinking of this is like, okay, when I'm looking at every quarterback that has ever had this similar type of injury, they don't go out that many games. So I'm like, okay, 3 to 4, I could see that. But then the third week, though, after that, the 3 weeks, if he's going to week 4, is the Minnesota Vikings game, which is a divisional matchup, and that you have to win if you want even a contender spot at the division spot or playoff in general too. That's a very important game. So I think Jordan will be back for that, but you got to see how he is. You got to be clear and healthy because I don't want to throw him out there like Brett Favre did back in the day when he really just had a bandage and you just tape it up and throw him out there. And Brett Favre could do that easily, but I'd rather keep Jordan Love safe for long-term purpose and keep him long-term a bit, or short-term, for the Minnesota Vikings game. I'd rather put him out there for that game because I think Malik Willis will be fine than some people are going to say because he's got a strong arm. He has a bit of mobility out there. It's just the timing and him releasing because he holds on the ball too much, though. So,
yeah, I do think that if he plays against the Colts and the Titans, I do think we will muster out one win between the two.
Yeah,
and I don't think he looked terrible during preseason. The one game he played, he did not look bad. I think that we can get a win with him if Josh Jacobs shows up. If Josh Jacobs doesn't show up, then I think we have no chance of getting a win. Mm-hmm. Well, or actually, if we give Emmanuel Wilson the ball, maybe we have a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on that. I need to see better out of the offense line for the run game. I need to see a bit better out of them because watching Josh Jacobs reminded me of like that Raiders offense line last year. I'm like, he's getting nowhere, absolutely nothing. So we got to see a bit better of that, though.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking with Malik Willis, the best case scenario, honestly, like obviously you want to go 2-0. That's what everyone wants to. But like, I'd be fine if he splits it. If he splits with the Tennessee and Colts, I'm fine with that because it's non-divisional, non-conference games, so they don't make a huge impact on the Packers for like seeding wise and playoffs. It would be funny though if Malik Willis just like beats the Colts and then we lose the Titans. Like,
yeah, I could definitely see that happening. But
yeah,
I mean, it is a rivalry against the Titans, so maybe he'll have a little fire in him. We'll see.
Yeah, a Malik Willis revenge game we need out there.
Yeah.
We need that. But, yeah, I think Malik Willis, he's prepping as much as he can. I think he's getting better. They're also doing Sean Clifford, too, so I'm not going to be surprised there. Clifford's had experience in college, too, because he's played in the conference bowl game, so that's a bit easier. But he did suck in preseason, so that's not helpful. But I think Malik Willis could be the better hope for us of just trying to, like, put him out there to game plan. As long as he doesn't turn the ball, doesn't, like, overreact, feel too much pressure, just feel a little bit more confidence out there, and he just does the game plan that Milford has him do, and they succeed on offense and score touchdowns. That's the success recipe right there.
Yeah, and he's got to use his legs too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's definitely his best weapon. He's got a good arm too. As you saw in Liberty, he had a cannon, but
Yes.
he hasn't really. But on Tennessee, TD to interception ratio is 0-2. So, and he played a few games. So but hopefully he plays his game, and Matt LaFleur, tries to build around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because Matt has had experiences before with he had it with Jordan back when he started his first game for the Chiefs when Rodgers got COVID. Mm-hmm. And LaFleur did the mistake where he just did the whole entire plan. He didn't do his game plan around Jordan. He just did his game from what he had with Rodgers and just, okay, let's throw it at Jordan and see what happens. And if that did not work out, like if they fixed it right off the bat quickly, they would have easily beat the Chiefs given that how low score that game was. But yeah, I just think like LaFleur's got to do a little bit better of like how to like come with game plan and cannot just take what we got from the Jordan Love game plan for him. You got to figure out this pros and the cons with Malik Willis. You also got to consider with Sean Clifford too, but really Malik Willis out there though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's me with Malik Willis, right? That's where we're at with Malik Willis right there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Jordan Love is because LaFleur said in his presser today that he doesn't even need to practice to like even come back in like for the week one or to this week's game. He could literally go without practice the whole entire week and go right in. The way I'm seeing the injury, it's not as bad. Everyone's saying it was because every Packers fan, including myself, was trying to look, okay, let's see how these random doctors are on Insta, social media and see, give us the diagnosis here. What do we have here? Because we are so impatient today in society of like, okay, we need this stat. Give me the thing real quick.
Yeah.
And every doctor had the different opinion of everything. Torn ACL, torn MCL, sprain, everything else. And finally we got the good news. So that was the good part though for us.
Yeah, it really, watching that live, it looked horrible.
Yeah.
It looked like his knee completely popped. It looked terrible. But now, and then just watching him walk off the plane, I was like, oh my God, like he looks fine. He's limping a little bit, but I mean, for his knee looking like it came out, I mean, I wasn't complaining.
Yeah. So it's the best case scenario that we got out of that. Honestly, it's the best case you can. I mean, no way. Like he's coming back fine the next week because it's just not gonna happen. But yeah, best case scenario for Jordan Love, I will say though. Hopefully, we get him back better and he's healthier as we get him going here though. All right, let's talk about this long preview game here. So we got is the Packers Colts game here, ladies and gentlemen. Packers are not favored. It's the Colts. And if you go look on YouTube and you go look at the NFL preview game of the week and you see everyone's analysis, including Adam Rank, who's the worst guy at predicting games and he's a biased Bears fan, you go look at it. Everyone's got the Colts favored. I even picked the Colts on my radio show this week because I just think the Colts are slightly better of what I saw from this past week against that Texas game because it was very competitive. But John, what do you think about heading into this game though?
I think Richardson has potential to tear us apart.
Okay.
I think that he is. I do think he's a better runner than Jalen Hurts. So I think that could hurt us. Mm-hmm. As we know, the Packers have a lot of trouble with quarterbacks running.
Yep.
And also Jonathan Taylor definitely could be a problem. But I mean, I think if we contain the passing game from Anthony Richardson, and Jair is on his game. I mean, who's Jair going to be on? Michael Pittman?
Yeah, Michael Pittman.
Or Pierce? I don't know. Because Pierce looked like the one last game. But I really don't know. But, I think Malik Willis, needs to not do too much. But, I mean, I think he needs to let our weapons do the work. We need to give the ball to Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson. I'd like to see a split there.
Yes.
And maybe run some jet sweeps with Jaden Reed as well. That would definitely work. But I don't think that we're going to win. But I do think it's going to be closer than some people are saying.
I agree. I think it's going to be a closer game. I think if I'm Jeff Hafley, you got to kind of do not a similar game plan as like what you had against Philadelphia because Obviously, they had Devontae Smith, they had A.J. Brown, and they have amazing running back. But with the Colts, you got to contain Anthony Richardson like you do with Jalen Hurts, and you got to be able to limit Jonathan Taylor what he can do, because the man can run for days, and Packer fans will know him very well because he went to Wisconsin last year. He's a Wisconsin Badger, one of my favorite Wisconsin Badgers watching. So you got to contain as much as he can, and Jair's got to step up his game if he really wants to be considered a top corner because he's getting paid top money here. You got to be able to shut down Michael Pittman.
Yeah,
you got to be able to shut down him. So for me, that's my thing with Jeff Hafley. You got to contain Anthony Richardson, but I would like to see a bit more. I mean, he was aggressive, but I'd like to see a bit more aggressiveness. And really, that trench of the defensive line has got to get a lot better because that was garbage. And the Colts' offensive line is not what it used to be. They used to be fantastic. It's not that great as everyone's thinking it is, though.
Yeah, I think if we get pressure on Richardson, like just pressure, like zero pressure on Jalen Hurts this past week. Mm-hmm. He had he had all the time in the world. It was not good, not a good look. If we contain Anthony Richardson, I think he'll get nervous, and I think he'll throw bad balls, and I think that'll help us a lot.
Yeah, and we saw that. I saw that too in the Week 1 game with the Colts and Texans. Like, he was not looking pretty. He had some easy throws he could have made, and he didn't. And he looked a lot of pressure. Like, for example, he went his last game, ladies and gentlemen, he went 9 for 19. He had a 47.4 completion percentage, 212 passing yards, two passing TDs, 1 interception, 100.1.2 passer rate. Like, if you can pressure him, get him bring that confidence level down a bit, they can really get after him too.
Yeah. And those yards came from that. I will say he did make a great throw.
Yes.
He was tripping. So, and who knows if this is a problem with other NFL. Well, we know it's a problem at MetLife. But, a lot of those yards came from that one throw. I don't think he looked good against the Texans.
No, especially when the Texans have a pretty good defense too. But yeah, I just think you got to be careful again with got to contain them. You got to. I think the similar game plan, like with containing Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, is like have them both combined of less than 120 yards, and then that's a good recipe. Because you got to pick your poison. You hold them to less than 120 yards rushing. That's pretty good. I mean, we held the Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley under 140 yards.
Which is good for us.
That was good for us, which was helpful to us because Saquon obviously wasn't very good in the touchdowns, but he finally got his break later in the game too, folks. But that's got to be a similar game plan with containing Anthony Richardson and stopping Jonathan Taylor, stopping as much as you can with the running, because the run defense is not going to be as great as it used to be. But that's what you got to do if you're the Packers defensive line in the trenches, especially with Kenny Clark. You got your other guys too with Rashawn Gary. You got Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, and Devontae Wyatt and TJ Slate. You got to really contain and do the best you can out there.
Yeah. And we definitely have potential too. Those guys have so much talent.
Yes, they do. They really do out there. But yeah, that's my big thing from there. And then I do know, going back earlier, Hafley did say that Cooper will be getting get a lot more reps, so I should expect him to have a better game this time. So that'll be interesting there. And then to give you guys updates on the injury reports, I'll start with our team here. With Corey Ballantyne is dealing with an oblique injury. He was limited participant in Wednesday and Thursday. Kenny Clark dealing with a toe injury, was limited participant for Wednesday and Thursday. He should be good to go. Edgerrin Cooper dealing with a knee injury. He's a full participant the past 2 days, including today. He will be fine. Josh Jacobs dealing with a back injury. He was limited yesterday and today, so he'll probably be fine. Marshawn Lloyd, we could be seeing him too, John, of him getting his debut as a Packer, and maybe see him his number 2 role or do a 3-back committee. I don't know how LaFleur wants to run it, but he's dealing with a hamstring injury, and he's been a limited participant the past 2 days, including today with limited participation. So we could see that.
I'm curious to see what they do with that. I mean, because Wilson really did play great the 4 reps that he had. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they would split it into 3 or maybe give him a few, third down plays. I don't know. I don't know what they do with that.
Yeah, I feel like you could like mix it around of like your third down back on like the pass game if you're gonna go for a play, or you're blocking running back, or just go for a straight up run. Like that's something you gotta see out there for Matt LaFleur. And then Jordan Love, of course, he's dealing with the knee injury with his sprained MCL. He's not practiced at all this week, but he could play this week because LaFleur said he doesn't have to practice for him to even be the starting quarterback this week. He will go as long as he's cleared, and he thinks he's cleared. And then our last injury for the Packers is Quay Walker. He was a limited participant today dealing with groin injury. So not that bad of injuries, though, personally. Just obviously it's a Jordan Love case, though.
Yeah.
And then with the Colts, they don't have that many injuries. They got Josh Downs, limited participant. Yesterday, they did not have the practice updates from today, but from yesterday, Julian Blackmon, he did not participate. DeForest Buckner did not participate. That's good for us. Kwity Paye also did not practice. That's two big defensive players on the Colts did not practice, and that's pretty good for us. And then Matt Gay, he was a full participant. I think he was dealing with a stomach virus. I think it was. He didn't play last week. I remember that. But the big thing you got to watch out for is going to be DeForest Buckner, Julian Blackmon, and Paye. So it might get easier for that.
Yeah.
So I think if you can if Buckner does not play, you can really attack in the run game, run for the trenches. And if you don't have Paye, I will also considering with Buckner too. Pass game also is a bit better too. So it gives the Packers a bit of a break and give them more confidence and like give them more approach to attack that defense.
Yeah, the more time Willis has, the better. If he doesn't have time out there, we are screwed on offense.
Oh yeah, that's just how it is. It's really about can the Packers execute, because that's been the big thing. And we said it because the Packers are shooting themselves in the foot, and they really got to execute. That's the big thing for them. And then another thing I'll talk about real quick because of the injuries for the Colts is they don't have that much depth in the secondary. They really don't have that much depth because they're running with barely any backups because most of their guys are hurt. I mean, of course, you got Moore, Jones, Cross, and Blackmon and Flowers, but still, like, they really don't have any depth. So that could be a big thing for us, and that's one of their big weak spots on that defense. So Packers could really take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So that's my big thing is you got to execute and you got to do the job. You really got to do the job, though.
Yeah, I mean, if Malik Willis, turns into that playmaker that he once was at Liberty, I think that and if he uses Jaden Reed, I think him and Jaden Reed could definitely have a good connection.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think if he's able to roll out and hit Jaden Reed or even get Christian Watson going or Dontavian Wicks, I think that I think we can tear up their defense, definitely.
Yes, definitely. I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah, I think it's really about the execution. Can they take advantage of the execution is going to be my big thing with this team. Because if you don't take care of execution, you're not going to score, you're not going to win. That's my big thing with this team. With
or without Jordan Love.
Yes, with or without Jordan Love, you got to execute still, because if you don't, it's going to hurt them so much. Yep. Definitely going to hurt them. While we're here still and we're still talking on this, I'll ask you another Packer question. What has been your favorite game to watch besides the Super Bowl? As a Packer fan.
Oh man. I don't know. I mean, this is recency bias. I love when we beat the Cowboys. I mean, that was just incredible.
Which year?
This past year.
Oh, this past year? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, I mean, another one from last year when we beat the Lions for the second time around. And I'm trying to think Rodgers.
There's the no Des catch. There's a Jared Cook game. The About Town Miracle. The Run the Table year. The RELEX year. 2019 where they had that massive run. And then 2021 beat the Bears. I still own you, and then beat the 49ers on that game-winning drive.
Yes.
Send Crosby to get it in.
Yeah, was that week 1? That 49ers game? I think that was week 1.
That wasn't week 1 because we got blown up by the Saints in Jacksonville.
Oh, that was week 2.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because that was a horrible loss.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like we did that the year before too. We lost horribly week 1.
I mean, we beat the Bears last year in week 1, so that wasn't completely that wasn't bad for us though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I can like put my finger on like one game. I mean, Jared Cook's toe tap is probably one of my favorite catches ever.
Mm-hmm.
Or Jeff Janis. I mean, another great one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I watch that on replay every day.
So good. Such a good memory.
And great broadcasting there too. Definitely made it memorable.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of the fortunately the game did not end the way that Packer fans wanted to, but like arguably that's one of the greatest throws of all time.
Yeah. Definitely. And yeah, defense absolutely shit the bed in overtime.
That's our defense in the playoffs every year.
Larry Fitzgerald did his thing too, so it was definitely sad. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, there's too many games besides the Super Bowl. Obviously, there's the no Des catches up there for me. The Jared Cook one's obviously up there for me. I'd probably say the 4th and 8 against Chicago because that was like I remember watching that game live. And my dad said, "Don't get your hopes up," because it was like 4th down. Like the season could be over. They're not going to do well.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like hesitant. I'm like, I think he's going to make it. And then of course, Cobb makes the catch, and I just run around the house. I'm just like,
yeah. What a throw that was too. What a throw that was.
Especially the block by John Kuhn on Peppers.
Yes.
And it was probably also my funniest game I've ever witnessed in life too, because of the Jared Boykin fumble touchdown. That has to be at least a top 10 funniest play of all time of watching football. Like fumbles it, nobody notices it, picks it up, and Joe Buck says in the end zone, touchdown. Yeah. So I mean that's probably my favorite game watching personally. In person wise, because I've been to too many games of Packers. I think my favorite one is like between the 2 times I remember going to the Vikings game, we blew them out. And the one was with the Keyshawn Nixon one where we got the ran it back touchdown.
Yeah.
The other one was with the Vikings backup. I remember that was 2021. Probably the one with Kirk Cousins, that blowouts of watching in person, or the Packers Bengals game where
Rodgers field goals.
No. It's the one where Rodgers gets the free play and they make a huge comeback and Rodgers gets the free play to Gmo and Geronimo Allison catches it, breaks it down the field, breaks Pac-Man's ankles and gets him in. My first win ever watching at the Packers. Game.
Geronimo Allison. I used to love Geronimo Allison.
I love him. He was one of my favorites of watching, especially like you need that third string, that receiver. He's so good.
Yeah.
So good watching him. But yeah, that's probably up there for me. But yeah, let me answer quickly of the comment section real quick, folks. Do I start Watson? How will the wideouts do without Love? John, I'll let you answer that question.
I don't think you should start Watson without Love. Or, I mean, I don't even know. I'm starting Jaden Reed this week because I'm a Packer fan, but I don't know if I would start Jaden Reed this week either. I know it's tempting because he's number 1 on fantasy, but I'm not sure I would start him. I would stay away from Packers receivers, but I think that Jacobs could be in for a big day.
That's true. I definitely agree with you on that. So that's your question, folks, there. And then going back to the Packer games, there's like too many times as Packer fans we could just like remember fun classic games.
And a lot of sad ones. Too
many sad ones, especially in the playoffs too, with Seattle.
Oh my
Tampa.
God. And Tampa. Oh my God, because I had some false hope Rodgers gave me coming back, and then Kevin King just does his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, that play before halftime, I was in complete awe that happened. Like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, just brutal watching that.
Yeah, I don't even remember who it was that he got burnt by. It was it Miller?
Scotty Miller was the one right before halftime, and then the first one was Mike Evans.
Yeah, Scotty Miller getting burned by Scotty Miller in clutch, like before halftime. Like, come on.
You gotta do a lot better than that, dude.
Yeah,
a lot better. Yeah, just brutal watching the playoff losses every single time we make the playoffs. It's just been tough and brutal because there should have been so many times where we should have either won the NFC and made it to the Super Bowl. There have been too many times where that should have happened for us. We should have won.
Yeah, and the analysts always think, they always used to think that we were going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it was always us in Kansas City at one point, and then they stopped putting us there at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could be obviously terrible ones, but it could be we're not like the Bills where it's a 13 seconds one kick.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough for Bills fans.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But yeah, so folks, again, Packers Colts. I mean, it will be very interesting too. We got Greg Olson on the broadcast for this week, so that'll be plus for us of the broadcasting. But yeah, both of us don't think Packers are going to win this week. It'll be close though. We do agree on that. I mean,
low scoring too.
Yeah, low scoring. I could definitely see that. Now, what is your game plan for the Packers? Because we've already mentioned before, but what is like your 3 keys for the Packers to win this week, John?
I think we should be running read option.
Okay.
I think Malik Willis could be deadly with that if used correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say don't let Malik Willis throw the ball, but I mean, he has to throw the ball. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe screens. I think screens could definitely work.
Yep.
I think Christian Watson could also be deadly on a screen. You get a big body like him in there. I mean, but yeah, definitely use Jaden Reed for screens, and I would definitely try to get Jacobs confident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just think, to me, you gotta. It's really going to come down to me of how does Malik Willis do? How confident is he? And then you also consider the you also got to consider what is it? You got to also consider the trenches too. In the run game is really what I'm at with this team. If you can get the trenches going, they should be able to win.
Yeah,
they should be a lot better, and they could be going way faster and better to me. But yeah, that's gonna be the big thing though, folks. To me, is really the trench battle because of how you can contain Anthony Richardson, kind of stop the run against Jonathan Taylor, but also offensively try to attack that approach and try to go down the field with it.
Yeah, if we stop Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson, I do think that we will win by a large margin. But I don't think that's going to happen, so I think we are going to lose. But I would be grateful if we did stop them.
I'd be hopeful too, folks. I would be also. But yeah, since we have a bit of extra time, because we've already covered our topics very quick and fast, guys, because whenever Mike's on, we usually talk too long because Mike likes to talk a bit too long, guys. But since we got about like 16 more minutes, folks, I'll ask John a couple of Packer questions, and if anyone wants to ask questions in the chat, put them in the chat before we had people put their comments in the chat. So I appreciate that, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and like the stream. We appreciate it as well. But John, let me ask you this: the toughest question I think a Packer fan needs to have the answer to. Who is your favorite Packer player of all time?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre.
Okay.
I'm going to go defense and offense.
Ooh, okay.
On the defensive side, I'm going to go Clay Matthews. Just total beast.
Respect that, yeah.
I think he just got inducted into Packers Hall of Fame.
He did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well deserved there.
Yes.
And offense is tough. I'm a huge Donald Driver fan and Jordy Nelson fan. But I mean, I think Sterling Sharp was gonna be one of the best of all time if he didn't get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So that too. Amon Green, I also a huge fan of Amon Green. I love Amon Green.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Jordy Nelson though.
All right. There we go. I love the pick. Love the Jordy Nelson pick. Him and Rodgers' connection was unstoppable. It just was too crazy. Every time I could literally remember that same route. He did it to the Bears. He did it to the Giants. He did it to the Jets. He did it so many times I can remember. And it worked every single time. No one could stop him. And it almost would either get you in the red zone very deep or be a touchdown. Every single time. Just insane watching that.
They had for a few years. They had a sick wide receiving core. They had Nelson, Adams, and Cobb all in the same year, and they still couldn't do anything with it. But I mean, that was a great year to be a Packer fan. Great few years.
Yes, definitely. I mean, just amazing with that. And I think Donald Driver, my favorite play of him is when he was playing against the 49ers and he breaks like 5 players with the tackles and somehow makes his way in the end zone, scores. I'm like, just insane watching that. That's probably my favorite play of Donald Driver personally. But I mean, the guy is a goat because he was like the late draft pick. No one thought he could ever be good, and he came from a very small school and he balled out.
Yeah. Too bad he got hurt in the Super Bowl, but still got the job done there. But great player.
Mm-hmm.
All of them had great connection with Rodgers.
They did. They all did. They all did.
And I think also Rodgers can make a mediocre receiver a great receiver. I think that was the thing with him.
We've seen that so many times. I mean, we saw it Monday night. You can go Alan Lazard. You can argue. You can go with Geronimo Allison. You can
MVS.
MVS, yes. MVS. I mean, you could also argue Devontae Adams for a little because of like after his second, third year, almost every Packer fan and people wanted him gone because he was not doing so good. Thank goodness we didn't do that.
Yep.
So there was that. I would also argue Greg Jennings a bit because he was good, but when you put him with Rodgers, he was unstoppable with Rodgers. And after he left the Packers, he was never the same guy ever since.
Yeah. And he talked a little bad about Rodgers too. I saw.
Yeah.
A little shade of him.
He's the one who gives him and Finley are the ones who give Rodgers the most shade. Mostly Jennings is the one who gives him the most shade, which it just annoys me of every time with Jennings.
Yeah, he would have zero career. Like he would be no one would know who he is if it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. Like that's always what annoys me with Greg Jennings. Of like, if he just kept his mouth shut, he would be I would like him a lot better, but he always is criticizing Rodgers every single time. I'm like, he helps you win a Super Bowl ring. Now, of course, but like everyone always talk about, well, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have won a Super Bowl without Greg Jennings making the immaculate catch. But like, you also got to consider like the throw that Rodgers made at that play. Like, that's a ridiculous throw to make in that high pressure situation, and it just balled out.
Yeah. I didn't know Jermichael Finley also talks about Rodgers.
Yep, he does a bit too. Finley was he's very less than Jennings, but he does talk a little goes a little against Rodgers on some things.
And that is so weird.
Yeah.
Guys would be nobody if it wasn't for him.
Exactly. I mean, he unfortunately had the neck injury and wasn't the same ever since then, but like again, that's what happens. I mean, there's too many guys who love Rodgers. Like, of course, Clay Matthews. You got Charles Woodson. You got too many guys you got to think of. But, I mean, still, just insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Now, let me ask you this question here. I don't know if you remember the 96 team very well for the Green Bay Packers with Favre, Leroy Butler.
Okay. Yeah.
Which Super Bowl team do you think is better? The 96 Packers or the 2010 Packers?
So, I mean, on defense, I would go 2010.
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean, you have Clay Matthews, Charles Woodson, um, uh, Desmond Howard.
No, not Desmond Howard. He was on
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Bishop.
Bishop. Yes. Oh, actually, I don't know. No, I would go 2010 for defense.
Okay.
And then, oh man, and then who is running the ball in '96?
96. It was the no-namer. I have to remember that.
2010 was
Ryan. It was James Starks,
yes.
but Ryan Grant was hurt in that season because he was the star, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, and Ty Montgomery wasn't around yet.
No, Ty Montgomery came like a couple
14?
years. Yeah, he came. No, he came like he finally. I think it was 15 we got him, and then he finally emerged in 16 because we transferred him to a running back.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. We transferred him to a running back, and then he finally became him. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a team to win, I would probably say 96. I feel like it was definitely a tougher team.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
it's close.
Okay. I would also go the 96 team because the Packers defense and offense was ranked number 1 in the league that year. Offensively, though, for the Packers in 2010 is very tough going against that defense. Yeah. But again, on defense, you had Reggie White, of course. You had Gilbert Brown, the Gravedigger.
Yeah.
You had Leroy Butler too. That was also good. You had Newsome. You had Robinson, Jones, Dotson. Like they were so good at the chemistry, and you have one of the best defensive coordinators in the league at that time. Now that's not to go against Dom Capers, but like you had a pretty good team. Pretty good team from watching that, and the amount of pressure and how Reggie White very unstoppable too. So be very hard at going against that offensive line for the 2010 team. And then offensively for the Packers in 96, you obviously had Favre. It was Edgar Bennett for the running back. Then you had William Henderson, Brooks, Freeman, Chumara, and then you had Frank Winters as your center. I mean, I think the offense for the 2010 team is slightly better than the 96 team, but I think overall, when you look at it, it's the 96 team that beats the Packers.
Yeah. But like, here's this question. Okay. Do you think the 96 Patriots were better than the 2010 Steelers?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think the 2010 Steelers were a great team.
Because they won the Super Bowl against the Cardinals 2 years ago. Then the couple years before that, they beat Seattle too, and they were like kind of approaching as a dynasty team.
Yeah,
looking at it too. But yeah, I would definitely say the Steelers just because obviously their offense was pretty good, and also their defense was way better. And you had Ben Roethlisberger who had experience in one Super Bowl compared to Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I definitely say that though because also it was the rookie year for Antonio Brown as well.
Yeah. I think speaking of dynasties, I think everyone thought that the Packers were going to run it back year 2.
Yes. Especially when you went almost undefeated in the regular season and then you lose to the Giants.
Oh, yeah. Totally disgraceful.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible just seeing that. But yeah, folks, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. John, do you have any Packer questions for me?
I am curious to know how you became a Packer fan.
Okay. So the way I became a Packers fan was, I've told this a million times to people, was my dad. He moved around a lot as a kid, but he had family up in Wisconsin. And my dad, he would like change teams for like baseball, change teams for football. I mean, not football really, but baseball really. He was a Cubs fan, but as a football fan, he had family up in the Wisconsin area, and that just kind of grew his passion to become a Packers fan.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to the Super Bowl in '96. I still have his photo. It's in the basement at our house. And he went to the actual Super Bowl. And then I wasn't into football until the year the Packers won. But the way for me personally was I was an Eagles fan in second grade for a couple of weeks just because my teacher said, if the Eagles win, you get no homework on Mondays.
Okay.
So that was the only reason why I rooted for the Eagles at all. So I would root that. But then when the Eagles faced the Packers, I was like, okay, I really don't want any homework. But I was kind of rooting for the Packers at the time with my dad. And then once the Eagles lost the Packers, then my dad I fully embraced becoming a Packers fan. And my dad got me into becoming a Packers fan. And then I won't forget, obviously, there was the Falcons game. But really the Bears game, I will always remember that. That NFC Championship game, I'll never forget watching that with my dad. That was fantastic watching him. And then I obviously watched the Super Bowl. I didn't watch the Super Bowl with him personally and his friends and my family because I was sick that night, I remember. So I was up in the separate room and he had to watch it all in the other room, and then we won. And then that's when I fully became a Packers fan to that day. That's when I fully embraced it. And then every year then I was Packers fan, put on the gear, make everything, wanted to go to a Packers game. I didn't go to a Packers game till it was like 7th grade in middle school. And it was Packers Colts, I believe. Yes. I believe it was the Packers Colts or the Packers Lions. And I got to go to that. And then I've gone to a Packers game ever since then because I'm a season ticket holder because my dad was very lucky. He got on the list and got tickets. And now because of COVID, since they went up for stock, I'm also a Packers shareholder now, stockholder.
Nice. Yeah. My grandfather's also a Packer shareholder.
There we go.
Very privileged to have.
It is very fantastic, even though it's worth nothing. It's worth it, though. It's worth it.
Just being able to put it on the wall is pretty cool.
It's exactly. It's worth it to have it. Like everyone will like. If you're not a Packers fan, everyone makes fun of you. He's like, oh, you bought this amount of money for this. I'm like, no, it's just to be a part of the team because that's because the difference between our team, John, besides every other team, is this is a community-owned team. Yep. This is not a owner. They don't do anything. This is a non-owner team. This is a community. We built this team together. This is because of the fans, and we started this. And look at the tradition. We've won so many things in this league, and it's just getting started. Well, we've been here forever, over 100 years, but like still.
Yeah. I'm curious. Have you ever been to any of the meetings that they hold?
No. I've been told it's good to go for the first time. After that, it is not good. It's just the same old thing. Okay. But it's very interesting though with having the meetings because you get to like learn of like the whole like stocks. You get to learn the finances there, and you get to hear from Mark Murphy, the president. So it's very interesting though.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What else do I have to ask? Favorite player.
My favorite player. Okay. It's a little cliche, but I got to go Mr. A-Rod, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, because he grew me into that fan because won the Super Bowl for me. Second, his game, like, greatest quarterback of watching to me personally. I mean, obviously, got Mahomes like talented wise, and like obviously, I've argued about the GOAT and everything else, but like watching his game personally made me like love him watching it because ridiculous throws that man makes is just like ridiculous because you can go look at the Chicago one where it didn't even count, but like literally spin moving, throws it and finds Devontae right in the palm of his hands. And then one of my favorite ones is the Jaguars one where he literally gets tugged from Jalen Ramsey and throws it to Devontae over Devon House, the former Packers CB. That like there's too many times where I've seen him make ridiculous throws and like almost nobody can make those throws except of course Patrick Mahomes, but like just ridiculous when watching this game.
Yeah, I mean when you talk about like obviously he's not the best. Yeah. But I do think I know this is controversial. I do think that he is more talented than Patrick Mahomes. I will stand by that.
Okay.
I do think Patrick Mahomes is insanely talented, but Rodgers in his prime, I don't think anyone else will ever be more talented than that.
I completely agree with you. I mean, talented wise, it's him because, I mean, honestly, Mahomes is talented and can make all those ridiculous throws, but like prime time, as you're mentioning, Rodgers always did it. He always did it, and he has the best touchdown interception ratio of all time.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Ridiculous.
That's how he's looked because he's so good at not turning over the ball on interceptions. Of course, he'll take a couple sacks, but he doesn't turn over the ball that much as compared to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just too bad he didn't want to show up in the playoffs besides 2010, but
yeah, I mean, there were some playoff games where he did show up.
Yeah, yes. And defense, unfortunately, usually never showed up. So,
no, the only time you could honestly argue for the defense was
49ers, I think, was one.
49ers was one. You could also argue the 2014 NFC Championship game against Seattle because the amount of sacks and turnovers in that game did not happened was ridiculous on Russell Wilson, the Seahawks offense. Then you could also say the Bucs game because there was a couple turnovers in that game too. I mean, you could also say the Dallas. You could say the Dallas. Like last year, you get to say that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any. I mean, 2015 those the Cardinals. No. 14, 16. You could argue against the Giants. I mean that whole tantrum up until because their entire defense was not good. Of like banged up. You had your third string CB, Ladarius Gunter, go against Julio Jones in an NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Like, we somehow beat the Giants in their Miami vacation trip on the boat. And I always remind Giant fans about that because it's funny. And Clay Matthews makes that punch the ball out and he hits the guy. That one you could argue. Dallas, every single time against Dallas, like you could argue that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there have definitely been some good moments, but the bad moments just really take over the good moments for me in the playoffs.
Yeah, you always got to figure it out. You always got to fight it out. And, there's too many good moments. Too many good moments where we've seen with this team, especially the last decade, despite not doing well in the playoffs. There's been too many good moments, though.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers was just so good in the regular season. Just like always, he was the reason the Packers were always like a Super Bowl like pick for people.
Yeah.
Like he just played he played like a Super Bowl quarterback every single year. And just only got the job done once, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I can't believe he hasn't even made another one.
That's been the killer. Everyone wanted to see him, and I've always wanted to see him go back to the Super Bowl. Like, even if he lost it, like, of course it's gonna suck, but like, you just wanted to see him make it back to another Super Bowl because most of the time we didn't see the NFC quarterbacks, especially in our timeline of growing up. We didn't see that many NFC quarterbacks go back. Drew Brees, he didn't go back. Eli Manning, he didn't go back after like in the last decade. Didn't go back then. I mean, there was Cam Newton. Didn't go back. Matt Ryan didn't go back.
Yeah.
There's Colin Kaepernick. Like, there's too many times. Even Russell Wilson. Like, after the unfortunate incident, which that makes up for it to me personally of the NFC Championship game is because the Malcolm Butler interception. That makes up for it to me of that purpose because now it's a beam forever. Yeah. But you look at this of like the amount of times NFC quarterbacks get to the Super Bowl, they don't make it back. They don't make it back. And that has been the trend, especially recently too. But you look at the last decade of the great mediocre quarterbacks. That has been the thing for the NFC quarterbacks. Because, of course, Tom Brady, always there on the NFC side and could kill anybody. Yeah. But, like, there's multiple teams, and the same quarterbacks can never get back to the Super Bowl that they once to. There were too many times for each quarterback to get back to the Super Bowl, and they didn't capitalize and execute.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Rodgers was one of them.
Yep.
But I still think he was obviously he was better than everyone that you just named.
Easily.
And always kept us in the running. But
that's one of the things I love about him because especially those catchphrases, RELAX, relax.
Yeah.
One of my favorite like lines ever in sports is just saying that. Then of course run the table. Like that was insane. And then I still own you. Like that's one of the funniest quotes, especially when he doesn't remember a single thing after
the
that.
belt too.
Oh my god, Mr. Discount double check. I love it. And every Packer player that uses it, like especially PJ Raji, he uses it. A-Rod. I mean, I love Rodgers doing the State Farm belt or the championship belt. Just fantastic. See that.
Yeah, I loved it when he was in those State Farm commercials with I think he was in them with Mahomes for a little bit. Those were good. Not anymore though. You don't see him in any commercials anymore. I haven't.
No, I have not seen him. I mean, I remember he was in one with Clay Matthews. He's in one with Randall Cobb. Yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic to watch. I mean, he also guest appeared in The Office. If anyone is a huge Office fan.
Yes, that scene with Ed Helms. Yeah. Yep.
The interesting fact, though, I will say to you and everyone who's listening is that show has my favorite two athletes of all time that have made a guest appearance on the show: Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Howard.
Brian Howard.
Yes, Mr. Ryan Howard, my favorite Phillies baseball player of all time.
Wow. I'm not a big baseball fan, so I don't know too much about that, but I didn't even know he was in the show.
It was with Jim's athletes agency, and Ryan Howard showed up, nicknamed Big Piece is what he would go by, and he would pitch the idea of like a superhero segment or a superhero like Big Piece here to save the day. We need Subway on the way. That's the interesting fact to you guys about that. I know Zach, who just commented in the chat, just here to say I love James Cook. Well, good for you. Hates The Office. I know he hates it. He always finds it overrated, especially with Steve Carell. But
man, Steve Carell was awesome in The Office.
I love him in The Office. I always found The Office just a little overrated personally. After Michael left, it was never the same.
I thought it was horrible after he left.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it was unwatchable. Actually, I forced myself to watch the last few seasons, but like when Jim was the boss and they had Robert California, unlikable.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
Yeah, it definitely was. But yeah, Rodgers started in that, which I always love him for, and then fortunately he did not start in, and I always get annoyed about it because every Packers offensive line person in 2014, when we had the Bakhtiari, Balaga, Don Barkley, Justin, and we had all that, and Clay Matthews started in Pitch Perfect 2, and you don't have Rodgers at all in this, and you have Clay Matthews, the lead singer. That
I wonder if it was him that didn't want to be in it. I'm assuming that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always wondered why he wasn't in that too. That scene was hilarious, though. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, so that I always wondered that too, but fantastic scene with Clay Matthews and the Packers offense line that. But I mean, too many moments of being a Packers fan. Too many moments.
Yeah, a lot of good and bad.
Mm-hmm, definitely. All right. All right, folks, we're going to end it here shortly here since we're about out of time. John, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have any last-minute questions? That's including the chat and you, John, if you have any last-minute questions.
I don't know if I have any questions, but I will say to everyone that's rooting for the Colts out there, I wouldn't count us out yet. I do think that we have a chance.
Okay.
And I do believe in Malik Willis in my head. I do. Mm-hmm. I think that the season is going to be a good one. It's going to end a good one.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Good. I hope Malik Willis does well. Go Pack Go, obviously. I got one clip to show you guys real quick before we head out, and John will laugh about this because this fan would be thinking of the Jordan Love Rodgers when Jordan Love got drafted. This is how this fan would probably think during that time.
Rodgers, who the only place he's going to take you to is the toilet bowl, and then you got Brett Favre, who will take you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just saying we're not going to talk about that.
Wow.
Toilet bowl for Mr. Aaron Rodgers. That man was so wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's so crazy how similar it was when Jordan Love got drafted.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone was saying the same thing. Like, why would you draft? And Brett Favre was awesome when Aaron Rodgers got drafted. So it's like, it was like they did the exact same thing with that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, everyone thought it was stupid, but I mean, we don't know for sure yet, but
Yeah.
hopefully it turns into something great.
Yes, hopefully it does turn into something great, and hopefully it's the next great Packers quarterback. We love to see that,
Yeah.
though, folks. We love to see it, and I'll play one more clip for you guys because John will like this as we head back to Jordan Love real quick, and this is Batman reference if anyone watches The Dark Knight. Anyone watches that?
That's a good clip.
So there you have it, folks. Jordan Love hopefully is the next best great Packers quarterback out there. But folks, we appreciate you coming on, and John, thank you again for coming on too.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where can the people find you? Because we always like to ask our guests too of where they can find you if they want to come check out.
Yeah, I have a sports card page, Johnny's Card Cove.
Okay.
You can find me and my football content there.
Cool. And of course, folks, you know where to find me here. And I'll be having my GOAT series premiere Saturday with the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders, so you can tune for that. And hopefully we get a Packer dub here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Hopefully we get that. And then to end it here, because I always do this with Mike, but Mike's not here, we'd like to end on a Go Pack Go. So we'll play the music here of your Go Pack Go, folks.
Go Pack Go!
There we go. Go Pack Go!
Go Pack